Watch. We are in the Village Hall as well as on Zoom. The Zoom link is at the top of the agenda. The agenda was, we have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance on this holiday. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oops. Next, then, we have public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak on any subject. If you are from the public, we just ask that you share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes in case we have a number of folks who would like to speak. With that, I'll be quiet. Anybody on the Zoom or in the room can chime in. All right, next then, discuss and consider our meeting minutes from our last meeting held on August 14th. Any questions, comments, edits in regards to meeting minutes as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
And I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Then we'll move right into the heart of the agenda. We have a presentation from Alex from the Dane County Planning Department and regarding the Dane County Technical Assistant Program for Comprehensive Plan Housing Chapter Updates. So Alex, we'll turn over to you. And
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name.
oops. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Hi everyone, my name is Alex DeSena. I'm the housing planner with Dane County's Planning Division. Thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to talking to you about Dane County's new technical assistance, assisting municipalities in the county updating the housing chapter of their comprehensive plan. And moving forward, I'll be referring to the program as HCU for brevity. Next slide. Today I'll be reviewing the HCU program's purpose and benefits, one of which being the new WIDA housing loan programs requiring an updated housing chapter within the past 5 years to qualify for funds. And then I'll be going over how the program works, including major activities, roles and responsibilities, deliverables, and a general estimated timeline. Next, please. There's little animations. If you click. Good. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so the purpose of this program, one of the purposes, is to assist municipalities like Cottage Grove with evaluating and identifying their local housing concerns and updating the core priorities and strategies in the comp plan housing chapter. And so some examples of what these concerns and priorities could be that are pretty common within the county that we see a lot and sounds like are here as well are the need for more senior housing, the need for supporting aging in place opportunities, and then more workforce housing. In addition, housing chapters will provide critical policy guidance for updating current policies in the future. So for example, land use policies, zoning updates, TID extension fund allocation, etc. And then this program was also identified as a need during the Regional Housing Strategy Strategic Planning Process, or the RHS. For those who aren't familiar with the RHS, it was a year-long strategic planning process with 80 representatives from throughout Dane County. So it had municipal staff, including your very own Erin, participated. We had business owners, residents, elected officials, really anyone who was interested in participating. And during that process, the need was identified for additional staffing and additional funds for assisting municipalities in the county with updating their comprehensive plans and housing chapters. So this program was created in response to that need. In addition, like I previously mentioned briefly, this program was also created to assist municipalities with accessing WIDA's new affordable housing and infrastructure loans. So relatively recently, the state of Wisconsin allocated about $500 million to WIDA to administer within 3 different loan programs, and then there's one additional home rehab program that I'll discuss. And so For the three programs, it is required that municipalities like Cottage Grove, to access the funds, they must have the updated housing chapter within the past 5 years. And so those three programs are the Vacancy to Vitality program, which provides funding to convert vacant and underutilized commercial properties into housing. The next one is the Restore Main Street program, which provides funding for rehab for second and third floor rental housing over commercial space, so typically main streets, corridors, things like that. And then the third is the Infrastructure Access program, which provides funding for installing, replacing, upgrading, et cetera, any public infrastructure that's related to workforce housing or senior housing, which I understand could be a need here. So those all require the 5-year, the chapter that's been updated within 5 years. The fourth program is direct to consumer, so residents can apply directly, but it provides funding for rehab for single family homes. Next slide. Okay, so I'll briefly go over the major activities of the program, which include preliminary meetings to establish the MOU, community meetings to garner community input into the chapter, a housing survey also for community input. I'll be drafting the housing chapter and then presenting or presentations to you all at Cottage Grove. So to dive a little bit more into the community meetings, this is really going to depend on your desired participant list, so who you're hoping to be represented within this. Of course, we want it to be as inclusive as possible, so the number of meetings will depend based on what that list looks like. We're estimating about 2 to 4. And the meetings will include presentations from myself. I will give an overview of the process so everyone's aware of the commitment and what they'll be getting themselves into and how it will work. And then we will review updated housing data and demographic data as well as trends, and give information regionally about the housing crisis as well as locally here in Cottage Grove to really provide a foundational understanding, make sure we're all on the same page about what is the housing crisis and how is that manifesting in Dane County and then in Cottage Grove. And then we'll also discuss, review the current work that you all are already doing. I'm familiar with the Housing Task Force, and so that's definitely will be important to integrate the recommendations from your 2023 Housing Task Force report so we can continue to build on that work. And then presentations will also review recognized housing solutions, strategies, and issues to provide a better understanding of how to address the housing crisis and people's housing concerns. I'll provide also background information on affordable housing, zoning, missing middle housing, senior housing, and other key issues and trends. And then we'll also be facilitating community engagement activities. To give a little more information about the housing survey, this is something we'll provide and disseminate. It's designed to capture a broad response and be as representative of a sample as possible. So are you a renter or homeowner, different demographic information. This is also something that we'll want to refine with staff to ensure that we're collecting all of the information that you're needing and wanting to assess. We'll also ask for some support with distributing the survey and an outreach strategy to really ensure that residents are aware of it and we get as broad a response as possible. We anticipate it'll be in between a couple of the community meetings that will have the survey open and collect responses for approximately 2 to 3 weeks. And then from there, I will compile and present the results at the next community meeting. The next major activity that I'd like to discuss is the drafted housing chapter. And so after the meetings, we'll take about a month to, depending on the process and how many meetings we had, a month to 3 months, and I'll include the updated data in the chapter, summarize the community input on priorities and strategies to make sure that's reflected within the priorities, strategies, and action items, the survey results as well, and then an implementation matrix, which will also outline those priorities and strategies and action items with a timeline. And then a presentation to Plan Commission and or the Village Board after refining that chapter draft with staff. Great. So to review the roles and responsibilities, as the county, I will be responsible for updating the housing data and conducting analysis, of course, in collaboration and working with the work that you've already done, setting agendas and facilitating the community meetings. I'll be administering and analyzing the housing survey, and then drafting and presenting the chapter. As the municipality, we would ask for support on public outreach, so both in terms of identifying community members to participate, and then promoting those meetings and conducting outreach to ensure that it's as inclusive as possible and we have a good turnout. In addition, we would ask for support with organizing meeting logistics, including time, location, and facilities. Oh, in addition, I also forgot to mention that if you want a housing website to promote the project or just a project website, that's something we would ask you to do as well as part of that outreach process. And then we'll also want to maintain communication with you and have regular check-ins, and so we can hear feedback and ensure we're meeting the needs of Cottage Grove. Okay, so I've already discussed most of this, but I'd like to quickly review the program's main deliverables, which include the community meetings and facilitation, the data and analysis, both housing and demographic data, as well as commuter data, the community housing survey, the drafted housing chapter, including an implementation matrix, the presentation or presentations, and then we'll also provide consistency recommendations. So since state statute requires that the comp plan be consistent throughout all of the elements, if there are new recommendations that come out of the housing chapter that need to be updated within the rest of the comp plan, we will flag those for you and provide that information, but that will be then your responsibility to integrate those updates into the rest of the comp plan. And this program is free of charge to all Dane County municipalities. Okay, an approximate timeline. So again, this depends on the size, the needs, and the specific goals of your community of Cottage Grove, but we estimate approximately 6 to 12 months for completion of the update. This allots 1 to 2 months for preliminary meetings, establishing the MOU, discussing any additional needs that you might need, translation services, things like that. Then we want to allow 3 to 6 months for the community meeting process, the survey dissemination, and the data analysis. From there, we estimate about 1 to 3 months for compiling all of that information and writing the housing chapter, providing it to staff, and refining based on feedback. And then lastly, we'll allow a month for scheduling purposes for the presentations. So that's an overview of the HCU program. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks, Alex. Great information. Any questions from commission members?
Yes, I have a question about, thank you for your presentation, a question about outreach strategies, and I guess maybe this could go into staff too. Direct mailers are a great way to reach everyone. I want to make sure that everyone's voices are heard and not just those people that, you know, are available from 5 to 7 on whatever night, because not everyone has, you know, as much availability. So I'm not sure if we request in the budget to do like extra, like a mailer, a direct mail postcard or something to people, so we can reach as many people as possible for the survey. Or I don't know if we have any suggestions, recommendations, and
Yeah.
just to make sure we have as many voices.
Absolutely.
as
That's definitely
possible.
something I'd want to collaborate with you all on, depending on who you're wanting to get involved. Of course, we want representative sample, so as many people as possible. But there's a number of things we could do. Is we could hold meetings at different times to try to have people who maybe couldn't come in the evening to other meetings. And additionally, we could do kind of place-based outreach events, so tabling at, a school event or going out into the community to things that are already occurring where people are, kind of meeting people where they're at in order to engage and raise awareness there, make that as accessible as possible. But again, we could have hybrid meetings. That can get a little bit complex, but if that's something that seems like a need to improve accessibility, that's something that we can absolutely do. So it'll be a collaborative conversation to come up with a strategy there. Yes, if you wanted to do the postcard mailing, we wouldn't have funding for that, so that would be something the municipality would cover, but totally an option. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think if we move forward with this, we sort of figure all of that out with the input of this group. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, we'll have the survey translated, depending on, there's a lot of Spanish-speaking families in Dane County and Hmong-speaking families, so typically those would be the two that we would have the survey translated to, so we can ensure responses from them as well.
Great, thank you.
How many municipalities in Dane County are participating?
Well, the program was just launched.
I understand that, but
yes.
I mean, we have like 60-something municipalities, so.
Yeah, so this program is specifically for cities and villages, which cuts that down a little bit, I think.
40.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also based off of who is needing that update. So whichever communities have updated their comp plan over 5 years ago or are coming up on that. So we've conducted outreach with about 14, 15 municipalities who are coming up on that, and we're still in the process of meeting with them, met with several, figuring out a timeline to move forward. But like I said, it takes about 1 to 2 months to establish the program, so those conversations are still happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, is there more than one Alex doing this, or?
I will have colleagues supporting me, especially for some of the facilitation
Okay.
and preparation, things like that. But most of it will be me. But yes, as needed, I'll have colleagues supporting.
Okay.
hmm Especially for the meetings.
Yeah, and as Fred said, there, the number keeps going up, obviously. You've already said over a dozen so far, so I can just imagine that, try to work that all in.
Yeah, and this program is first come, first serve, so it'll really depend on, as my schedule starts to fill up, how many communities I can take on and what that looks like. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Right. Other questions, comments from commission members? Go ahead, Alex.
Good. Okay. You answered one of them. You said the cost was free to the municipality. So I guess who funds the organization? So I guess it's the WIDA, right? Where's the funding come from?
For the affordable housing and infrastructure loans, or for this program?
I guess if you could do both, right? So you're hosted. Go ahead. I'll let you.
I'm hosted by the county, so
okay.
my position is through the planning division with Dane County. So that would be from.
So you're a county employee?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I got it.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool. And then, so you said you just start. If Fred you just started. So there's no example of a completed housing document from
Not
a prior
at the
municipality
moment.
yet, 'cause you just started it.
Correct, yes. We have templates that we're working on, and in addition, the county has been providing the service to towns already, and so this is now an extension to cities and villages. So we have some precedent there with the rest of our team as well that we're collaborating with. Mhm.
State law kind of dictates certain things you have to have. Comp plan,
Sure.
housing chapters.
A lot of things are in the words, and I sort of read the words, and I'm nerdy and engineering. Slide 3 is absent of the word families. Is that strategic? Is that a plan? Why are we not focused on family housing?
This was just to provide a few examples of what concerns might come up. This is something that will really want to be driven by the community, so I didn't list all of the there's lots of other housing concerns that are probably relevant and are need to be addressed and could be addressed through this program. But this is just to give you kind of a snapshot of what that could look like. So senior housing tends to be a big one. All of these do. Families, of course, there's lots of other issues. There's affordable housing is one, infrastructure, of course. Yeah, it could really range in a lot of things. So variety of housing stock, so different sizes of units is something that's needed. I know for families, more single family homes is definitely a piece there. So, but again, it's really gonna depend on your community and what we hear from residents and then what the data is telling us when we update that and do our analysis.
So I think the mix of homes, I think that's all good review. That's good data review. So I can tell you exactly what the crisis is, and we're done here. And it's the cost of construction. It's the cost.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're going to renovate above a commercial property, renovate a commercial property, or greenfield build. It's the cost, right?
Right.
And there is no report that's really going to fix that until economies switch around. So how does that play into it? Because you can provide a report saying, hey, it looks like in a village like this that looks like this is what we've done in the pie chart, and until that is really addressed, that's what we've seen over and over and over again in Plan Commission over the past 10 years I've been on the board. It's just the cost is the problem. It's not a mix. It's not where to build. There's plenty of grass, and dirt, and there is vacant lands to rehabilitate. There's homes that need to be rehabilitation. All of that's good stuff, and all of that is currently available. It's my understanding if you need help with a property, that agency's there to help with those things.
Which agency?
The loans and all this stuff that are available. That's been around for a couple of years now. Looking at the website, they've been there for a while. So, I guess, knowing that we're not paying anything, there's no risk to the village, really. But other than an output that says, here's how you fix construction costs, it's not like you can tell us to build 50 more homes. We can't afford. They can't afford to build
Absolutely,
it.
and that's something we're seeing too. Is definitely there's a shortage of construction workers. Supplies are more expensive, so that's absolutely true. I would say so. These WIDA loan programs are actually new. They were last year launched, last summer, first allocated, and so they've just started rolling those out. And so part of this program is to try to help provide access to those funds for some of that gap financing, since we know typically you need to stack multiple sources of financing to make a project work. And so having this chapter updated recently will give you 5 years of qualifying for, and developers qualifying for those funds for properties cited in Cottage Grove.
Do you know what interest rates they're running? I mean, are they
They're
market rates?
low. They're about 4%. I'll need to verify that and get back to you.
Because again, if it's market rate, then it's
Not market
the same.
rate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's lower. Definitely more affordable.
You have, your income needs to be
right.
fairly low to qualify,
right.
which doesn't apply to Cottage Grove for the most part.
Right. In addition, again, to reduce construction costs, I mean, you can make some policy recommendations. So TIF as a tool, how do you determine where you
It's
allocate
subsidies.
TIF
It doesn't
extension
reduce
funding?
cost. That's subsidies.
Right.
It's not reducing costs.
Right.
It's shifting the cost. And the shift that we've seen in housing market, they're for profit, right? Housing, it's generally for profit. It's not a business that's coming in and it's a but for. So that's just shifting costs.
Yeah, it's just one tool to help kind of, again, that gap financing to make a project financially feasible. So that could be an option. But you're absolutely right. That is a national issue and trend that we're seeing.
It is. It's not
And yeah, there's limitations there. Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
So we would need this program to qualify for any of the WIDA things that we could do. And this might be more for Aaron, do we actually qualify for any of the WIDA stuff?
Yeah, so the programs that Alex mentioned in the presentation here, we would, because I don't think there's any kind of income criteria that's tied to that. It's,
But do we
Munis-
need, okay, so we might qualify, do we need any of it? Do we need money for
the one that's-
infrastructure
The one
for?
that's interesting to me is the infrastructure one, because we remember the Lakewood guys that came in a couple months ago, looking at a fairly large senior housing project.
Yep,
That had quite a bit of infrastructure cost attached to it, a new lift station that would serve not just them, but the whole east side of
and
the
these are
village.
loans, right? We would qualify for a lower interest loan, is that?
Yeah, I believe that was 1% for that
Oh,
one.
yeah.
so.
It'd be cheaper than a municipal bond that we would buy, because we're the municipality?
It would go to the developer, I believe.
This would be for the developer, not for
Developer.
the
Yeah.
village.
Yeah, but if it's utilities, well, they're doing the initial infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
to the applicant.
So the developer would benefit from this?
They
The
would,
developer would benefit from getting the WIDA loan?
they would be the applicant if they're citing a project in Cottage Grove, yes.
So they would be the applicant, but dependent on our program being updated in the last 5 years?
The municipality within which developers apply to use these funds for projects needs to have the updated housing chapter of the comp plan. Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't benefit.
But we do have to update our comprehensive plan every 10 years, and if we don't
Yeah.
use this type of program, then we have to pay a consultant money to do it.
We do?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron can only do so many
Next
things.
time around, I've done it all the time since I've been here. I think we were talking about the next time we do it, hiring someone from the outside to help with that. That was gonna be next year. I think it's looking more like 2026, at which point our chapter would be out of compliance for these programs. So this is actually, good timing to do that
So there
chapter
would
ahead
be
of
an,
time
there would be a cost to the village if we didn't do this program.
eventually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just curious how much staff time you would anticipate, Aaron, that this program would encounter?
Haven't added that up specifically, but again, when we hire a consultant to do it, I would be working with them on it anyway. This wouldn't be any more than that. In the past, I've done it all myself, so this is considerably less than me doing all of it. Really, a lot of the time-consuming work would be done by the county staff in this case.
And this would just be the housing section, right? Yeah, which needs to be updated. And then the following year, we do the rest of the comprehensive plan. Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question. So do you take into consideration participating municipalities that butt up to each other? Like, do their housing plans match up or mesh together?
I would say maybe in terms of just ease of administering policy, that could be something to consider. However, again, we want this to be a community-driven process and based on the data and the input that we get from residents. But there could be benefits or drawbacks from that. I would say that's not a main consideration, though.
Okay, because I have problems with the word community. So, I won't name anyone in particular, but you could have a town, a village, and a city, all with the same name. They may not get along.
Very fair. We would not require any of that type of collaboration. This is just for your village of Cottage Grove. Mhm.
So is this basically like taking, it starts with the village board and then you have the plan commission, which is where we sit, and now we're just widening the scope? We're widening the base of people that we're asking questions of? Is that kind of what we're doing? I guess I'm not really understanding why, with what we're getting from talking to everyone. I think
Yeah.
isn't that the point of this commission here?
Yeah, I think the survey is a big piece to kind of illustrate what we would be collecting. So we'd be asking people about where do they live, what are their barriers to living in the type of housing that they want to live in, what's in their neighborhood, what kinds of housing are in their neighborhood. Lots of different information about how much of your income you spend toward housing, so looking at cost burden. So it's really trying to get more of a holistic and broad perspective on how the housing market in Cottage Grove impacts residents overall in order to update concerns. Since the housing crisis has continued to progress, even a few years, that data is going to change. So it's also to provide more current data to inform the strategies that Cottage Grove wants to move forward with.
Okay, I'm sorry, because I'm confused. And you're way smarter than me, but if you're
No.
talking to the people who already live there, that data is skewed because it's only from one point of view. So,
Instead of potential
I mean,
residents.
I've lived here for 30 years.
Uh-huh.
I have my perception of what we need for housing, but I don't know that it's real because I'm already inside the bubble.
Right, and that's why I think it's important to get as broad of a response as possible. And we'll be asking in the survey, are you a homeowner or are you a renter? So then you can disaggregate the
So
responses.
who's the survey going to, though?
All residents.
All residents of Dane County or
Of the village of Cottage
Okay,
Grove.
well.
Yeah, sorry.
All right,
Mhm,
thank you.
mhm.
Don't we already know if they're a homeowner or a renter, for the most part?
And then, so we would ask that, so then we could disaggregate for renters, how did they answer the question about how much of their income they're spending toward housing costs versus homeowners? How much are they spending? Or various other demographic data. So you can hopefully start to see that there is a reflection of responses from not just, a couple demographic groups or long-term homeowners within the community, but that you have that representative sample. We ask about age, things like that as well. So it's really, community engagement is also a big piece of comprehensive plans, and it's something that you need to demonstrate that you've tried to incorporate that into your plan and reflect resident sentiments within your recommendations, and so that's also the goal.
What kind of response rate are you looking for?
That's a good question. I would say, it could be any sample size, really. That would be something I would want to talk to Erin about, of how big of a sample or how small of a sample. I would say the more important piece is that it's representative of those various groups.
Okay.
Larger we want it.
Well, I'm just,
No, I'm gonna lean back on Fred's.
for
comment.
simple
Yeah, go
math,
ahead.
we have 10,000 people. If 10% respond, that's only 1,000.
Right.
If 5%, it's 500. At 2.5%, it's 250. I would say that's not a very good sampling of our community.
And that's where we'd kind of look at some of those trends of how do the responses and who responded, how does that reflect the population here? And assess from there, there's a gap in this group, or we didn't hear enough from this community. So that's something that we could do as well.
So I think the leverage on what Fred's talking about, though, you're a county employee. So your comment to the village, really the only ask of us is, do we need help in updating our comp plan? Aaron's been updating it, and he said he's capable. We could just change the date and it's magically updated. Which I don't recommend. There's really a lot of good words that you do, Aaron. The bubble's too small. Fred's right. The bubble's too small. If you want a good survey of what's going on in the market of Dane County, as a county employee, go after the survey through the county. From that survey, you'll have the municipalities that people are in that creates a little bit more of a focus. Because you're right, you're missing a huge demographic that may want to be here that can't be here, and you don't have that information. So the survey, which you don't need our permission for, just mail it out. You're the county. Do whatever you do, county things. Send it to the entire county. Really should be the recommendation. When you start to go village by village, you are creating bubbles and you're creating divide because you're not getting to your point. You said, well, this is information I'm missing. Let me go after that. Well, you don't have the town of Stoughton. I don't know, whatever. You're gonna miss information, and you're actually doing it kind of on purpose. Just send it to the county, and you don't need our permission for that for sure. Just get it done and get that data for us.
So,
The survey within the village is one piece of information we can look at. I think as part of this regional housing strategy, there were surveys that went out countywide.
we had
and
one,
information is
yes.
still available
So
in
what
that
was your
form.
result? What was your participation rate on that?
I would have to review that and get back to you on that. It's, I can send you the report. Go ahead,
Olivia snuck in, she went, no.
We had, I'm sorry, my name's Olivia Perry, we're colleagues in
You want to come to a thing,
Yeah,
Mikey?
Because we do have people on Zoom.
Yeah. The Mikey talkie.
So, yep, you
As
got
part
it.
of the regional housing strategy, we had 6,000 respondents for the survey we did, and we could, I haven't looked at that data since the report came out, but we could maybe,
We have 500,000 residents in Dane County.
we have 500,000, yeah.
So it's about a little over 1% return rate.
Yeah,
So we would get 100 people reply. That's nothing. It's nothing.
so I think one of the things
Right.
that, I'm sorry, your name? Heidi was asking is how we could potentially get a sample, a really good sample of, and make sure it was inclusive. And, you know, I think there's an online format. I think we did a paper format for the Dane County Housing Survey. And then we did it in Hmong and Spanish. We took it to libraries. You know, we were pretty robust in our outreach. Yeah, I mean, the consultants that we worked with were absolutely shocked that we got 6,000, you know, respondents. But we could, you know, find a way to take that data, you know, and sort of summarize it. And if you wanted to, include that as a reference point in your comprehensive plan or your housing chapter update, that would be an opportunity. But certainly, I think there are lots of ways to get representative samples for Cottage Grove in terms of the population. You know, if you have senior homes, if you have, affordable housing locations, or, you know, police department or grocery stores. I mean, there are lots of ways. It's a small community. There are lots of ways to really make that survey accessible. But I think we could totally accommodate, you know, the, you know, regional perspective in your housing chapter if that's something you're interested in.
At the end of the day, if this group thinks a survey is not gonna be worthwhile, we don't have to do a survey. We can
Right.
do focus groups, we can do an open house, we can do, there's other ways to get that kind of input.
So
right,
all
this
of
is
the above?
flexible.
Yeah.
So in the past, our very first comp plan over 30 years ago, I was part of, and the then Regional Planning Commission helped us facilitate that. And we had a Saturday morning community meeting, and we broke up into small groups. And we got a lot of good input because the people within them small groups, maybe 6 to 8 at the most, with a facilitator, I think we got a lot of good information. Now, I'd like to see, you know, something during the week, you know, multiple opportunities for people to do that. And I think that worked out well. Several years later, the similar, when we did another plan update, Alliant Energy, their economic development people came and did it at no cost. Did the same type of facilitation. They provided all the people. We collected a lot of the same information. So I think that worked out well. And then you talked about the supermarket. I remember a school board referendum where a couple of the actual school board members themselves from Cottage Grove were available at Piggly Wiggly, and they actually had a bunch of data on, you know, the referendum that they could, you know, talk to about, and was right there. And I actually talked to them about the referendum, and I thought that was helpful. So, but yeah, I mean, I think a combination, I think of the in-person, give everyone the opportunity to come, that has worked in the past. We've done it in the past, twice. And I still think some kind of online and even mailing. I mean, I try to get as much data as we can. So.
That's helpful context, thank you. And I would just add, for the data analysis as well, we would include comparison communities, so other municipalities within Dane County, to kind of give you a snapshot of, you know, you're not just within the bubble, but how do you compare with other municipalities?
I guess I understand the value in updating the comprehensive plan. I'm just struggling with the rest of it. You know, if we can't control, to Fred and Alex's point, if we can't control the cost of housing, construction, and labor, which we have no control over, if we can't, and the idea is to bring more people in the community, but we're not surveying people outside the community as to why they can't come to the village of Cottage Grove. It just seems like a lot of really hard work and efforts and a waste of taxpayer money.
Please.
This is just an observation that I have from working with the municipalities over the last over a decade in housing, and cost is right top of everyone's mind. One of the things that has driven this housing crisis is the underproduction of housing. We have systematically been underproducing the amount of housing we need in vis-a-vis the demand. So what the regional housing strategy did was really illuminate the problem on a region-wide level. So we had, you know, in the past been projecting demographic growth like this, but job growth wasn't really much of a consideration. And when you look at, I have a couple of graphs from the regional housing strategy I'm happy to share with you, but job growth is like this, and demographic growth is like this, according to Department of Revenue projections. And the reason that matters is that because that wasn't taken into consideration, we underproduced over 8,000 housing units compared to the number of new houses, new households that located here between, just for example, 2010 to 2020. So the regional housing strategy itself calls for, there are 5 priorities, 17 strategies, and 100 action items. One of the top ones that municipalities said we need to do is update our zoning code, and that can do a number of things. By updating the zoning code and allowing for a wider, broader set of housing sizes and price points, and increasing the overall number will go a long way for us to be reducing the pressure on this very constricted housing market. So right now we have a very low vacancy rate, 3%, over 3% below the national average. By all the municipalities kind of working, you know, to address the housing crisis across the board, we will begin to see a larger inventory and a much wider variety of housing types. One of the zoning updates that was recently done in the city of Middleton, they reduced their residential lot size to, the smallest residential lot size to 3,000 square feet. They also reduced or eliminated parking requirements. They reduced setbacks. These are all things that are very expensive for developers. So there is a way, there's an inroad to actually reducing housing costs and the cost to developers. Another thing that came out of the regional housing strategy was that we have a construction labor shortage, which we've known about for a long time, but we are going to be partnering with MadRep and the county and builders and developers to assess the construction workforce pipeline and conduct a feasibility study. And that will probably take a year or two, but that's something that's also potentially going to help bring forward, you know, more housing. So that's just one observation that I've, you know, a few observations that I've shared that I've experienced as part of the regional housing strategy and working with municipalities over the last few years.
I would just add, I think I hear you with the concern about only hearing from Cottage Grove residents and not about people who would like to be Cottage Grove residents. I think that's a great point. We should be hearing what the barriers are there. However, I think there is value to hearing from your current residents. As we know, like I mentioned, senior housing is a barrier. So what does that look like for seniors? Are they able to downsize? Are they able to access aging in place resources? Are they thinking about leaving the community? What about families who have children who graduate high school and would like to stay in the area? What does that look like for them? So I think these are some of the things that we can start to hear, really, what does that look like? What are the experiences within Cottage Grove right now?
Yeah, again, the answer is easy, and like we're done, right? So it's the cost to build the house. There's things that, you know, there's not enough inventory. The second thing, you know, you talk about aging workplace. The Monona Grove referendums are destroying us. The cost of continued ownership of the property we've already paid for, and the costs continue to go up for apparently lack of poor management. So that's all internal stuff that could have been resolved years ago. I mean, it's all right there. So I think there's a couple good outputs. I think, you know, that we need to update the plan. Aaron's smart enough; he's been updating it. You know, I think good data can help us really kind of make better decisions. But we cannot continue to fool ourselves that the report's going to fix something, or that some magical property is going to get built, or it's going to fix the birth rates in the United States. This problem's going to go away in 5 to 10 years. We're not having enough kids. Families is not on your list. And that wasn't a mistake. That was deliberate. So there's things that we can do here, and we can get real, or we can get serious and talk about the issues that are going on in Cottage Grove, barriers to houses. Yeah, you can rent the house. When you find out your rent jumps by $1,000 because of a referendum, because of schools, the families, the aging, they're not going to want to be here. It's not Dane County. They're going to leave Dane County. And that's where that bubble starts to grow. Get a survey of the entire Dane County. What's going on? Because I'd like to know where taxes are cheaper. Because I can't retire here. I'll tell you that right now. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. There's the barrier is not going to get fixed by building more structures because of that thing. And that's what's going on. You hear it all the time. That's the information we get. Mm-hmm. So I think, yes, again, data's good. I'm an engineer, I'm a nerd, I love all that stuff. But we cannot continue to fool ourselves with rhetoric. And let's look at some of these serious issues. And if your report's not going to say, hey, your taxes are way out of control, and you're not going to say stuff like that, your taxes have jumped X% per year, blah, 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 and it's because of this. And the birth rate's going down, so there's less kids going into school. We're just fooling ourselves. I'm frustrated. Obviously, clearly, it's not you. You're doing an amazing job. You're smart. Fred's right. You're smart people. You're putting together data that helps us make decisions, but let's be sure we're focusing on the actual problems and not just sort of rhetoric-y, I have aging housing, whatever. They're going to leave. No one wants to be in Dane County and retired. Fine. There are people there. Fair enough. You're going to find them. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are just like, wow, I bought my house, I was paying $3,000 in the yearly rent, and now I'm paying $7,000 in that taxes. So it's tough. Mm-hmm. So let's get real and let's start talking about the holistic picture and not just try and compartmentalize this stuff. So I don't know.
Thanks for
spent enough time
sharing.
on it, but you guys are doing a great job. You're putting a lot of data together. It helps. It all helps. But let's be sure we're serious about what we're talking about, not shifting costs, not talking about TIDs, actually talking about what the issues are.
Absolutely.
So,
I thank you for sharing your concerns. I hear you. I know that's shared with a lot of other residents throughout Dane County. I would say, one option, just one consideration is that if you're adding more variety of housing stock, so also for families, but for people who don't go to schools, so seniors or young adults, you're adding to your tax base without requiring the need to invest in additional services. So that is a consideration. To your point there, but I hear you, and there is some evidence. There's evidence out there showing that when you build more housing, costs incrementally do come down. Prices for housing do come down, and so I admit, yes, it's an incremental change, but it's necessary, and it's You know, people are hurting. Like you said, your rent goes up $1,000. So how can we start to mitigate some of those impacts?
Yeah, and it's not our social, it's other outside factors we need to get real and have conversations about. I mean, there's 20-year-olds living still in their parents' house, which is great, you know. That's right, yeah. So anyway.
So that's exactly why I think that we need to hear from our residents and hear what their issues are, and I think is all the more backing to why we should do additional community outreach to see what the challenges are that our community has, and not just anecdotal, like, yeah, of course, the cost of everything's going up. Like, what are the challenges? What type of housing is like the most in need for the people living here? You know, I have parents that would love to move to this community, and you know, I live here, so I know that that's a challenge. They want to live close to their children, and there aren't opportunities. So there's voices that we can hear of people that live here right now that want to be a part of, you know, the solutions and want to have their voice heard in their government, which is exactly why we should give them opportunities to do so, instead of, you know, just the 7 of us in a room making decisions, that we're, you know, making our decisions based on the challenges that our residents see. So I think definitely as many ways as we can get people to participate and have a voice in their government, I think is important.
And I agree, Heidi. That's why I'd like to hear from your parents, non-village residents, because we've got the village residents are here. They come and go, but they're here. A family in Portage that wants to move to Cottage Grove. They work on the east side of Madison, much closer for them. We're not hearing from them. And again, until we get the housing cost and the taxes, we're wasting time. We're wasting money on something that we can't fix. There's nothing the village of Cottage Grove can do to bring down housing costs. It's going to cost XYZ per square foot to build a house, whether it's on a lot that's 2,000 square feet or a lot that's 20,000 square feet.
All right, I think we got a theme here, and certainly understand. We do need the data. We do need to take the surveys. I think that's clear from the feedback. It would be good to see the county data as well. I think it'd be helpful to get a little glimpse of what else is out there as far as potential folks that want to move to Cottage Grove. Certainly anecdotally, we'll have, you know, if we do this outreach, we'll get information from people who know other people who live here and those that want to come here. I think we're going off on a little bit of tangent here about costs and stuff like that, because you're right, we're not going to fix it here. What we're talking about is updating our comprehensive plan in regards to the housing section, which we actually have to do because it's in need of updating. So that's, I think, the focus here. The county's here to lend a hand.
At no cost to us.
At no cost to us.
Versus Aaron hiring an outside consultant.
Correct.
So it's a no-brainer to me, but.
Yeah. Is that a motion?
Well, I didn't know.
I know. Aaron or Alex, anything else that you want to cover or talk about? Aaron, I know you have a memo in the packet for us.
Talked about what's in there.
Yep, I know you did. Anything from any other commission members on this? Alex wants to go home. If there isn't, then I think we'll move to the next item then, which is to discuss and consider the recommendation regarding Cottage Grove's participation with Dane County in regards to our housing chapter updates.
Then I think the motion that the Village of Cottage Grove participate in the Dane County Technical Assistance Program for Comprehensive Plan Housing Chapter Updates is presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second then. Is there any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I,
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next then, we'll open a public hearing. This is the public's opportunity to provide input in ordinance number 9-2024, amending the zoning ordinance related to tobacco and vape shops, alcohol sales, and fences, and keeping of chickens. So we've covered several items there. In there, that's several ordinances for everybody in the room. We all know that, but for anybody that's listening. But that is a mouthful. Larry, you want to say anything about this?
I do.
All right.
So there's a few things in this that we're going to need to do a little bit more work on. In particular, the signage as it relates to the vape THC business and the regulation related to these pop-up full-service alcohol establishments by producers. So we'll be bringing back a revised ordinance. I just asked Aaron if he still wanted to hold, so we're going to table this for now, but whether or not he still wanted to hold the public hearing, but unless Cindy, who I see is on, wants to comment, we don't have anybody here to comment anyway, so we might as well just wait on both. And we'll bring a revised version to you.
Okay.
As far as publishing notices and publishing ordinances, it's always more cost effective, at least for the village, to do them all at once. So it doesn't make much sense to do it piecemeal.
So even though there's, a number of things here and we're only going to be adjusting 2 of them, we'll just bring the whole package back.
Okay. So I think I don't think, Cindy, you have any comments? No, I don't think so.
Can I ask a question about it? I know we talked about it. So it's specific to childcare centers for the chickens. Like, is this something that we're gonna just address every time somebody asks? Like, what if another business comes in like, well, now we want chickens because we saw they had chickens and eggs are expensive, so we're gonna have a chicken coop. Is this something that we're gonna have to address every time somebody?
I mean, if anyone asks, this is the first type of business that's come up in a few years.
Right, and what I'm
here.
saying is,
Yeah.
do we just, instead of specifying that it's only daycare centers, is it now, can we broaden that so that we don't have to do this every time? Now Steele says, oh, we saw their chicken coop and that's a great idea. We're gonna have chickens too. Now do we have to readdress and go through all of this for another business that wants to do the same thing?
I would think you'd broaden it if someone comes in and address it at that point.
So, and it's gonna be on a piece, on a,
I would just say
Case-by-case basis?
if someone comes in as a business, I guess I would look at it and then broaden it like you're talking about at that point. But until someone comes in, which I wouldn't hold my breath that someone's gonna come in and want
Eggs are
chickens at their business, but,
does it cost more is there a cost to do it on a case-by-case basis to adjust things, or it doesn't matter? We're just gonna,
I don't think it's not that expensive.
okay.
And we're probably better off having a narrower focus for now.
Yeah, and with respect to the conversation on this way back when with the village board, there was some hesitance about just opening the whole village up to chickens, and so I don't know what the opinion would be now. I don't know if there's been problems with chickens as of yet.
Not at the residential. I guess the caution would be if you throw it open to everybody and then there are problems, it's a lot harder to shut the door again, as opposed to just kind of trying it out with this one type of business.
All right, I'll close the public hearing portion of this. It was basically tabled, but at least we'll have it in there. And we do have chickens that are using vape shops, alcohol, and so that's great. Gotta like that. So then item 9, I think, is also tabled.
You need motions for those?
No.
Nope.
We'll bring it back because then we gotta take them off the table. Future agenda items. Aaron, anything to call out?
Again, Lakewood will be coming back at some point this year. Not sure it'll be next month. We also started re-engaging with Heyday. They're looking at some minor-ish tweaks to their plan, and they would be coming back with their precise implementation plan again, probably before the end of the year is what they're currently thinking about.
All right. Item 11.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second then, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.